They're answering you. Accurate, measured, calm. You explain something that matters. They nod. They understand it perfectly, but they don't move toward you emotionally. No increase in warmth, no deepening. The structure of the interaction is intact. The energy is thinner. They didn't pull away, they reduced output, and that difference is easy to miss. Emotional exhaustion doesn't always look like distance. Sometimes, it looks like efficiency. They still show up, they still respond, they still care, but they begin conserving. Less spontaneous expansion, less emotional amplification, less visible intensity. You think they're stable. They're narrowing. Here's what makes it dangerous. Nothing dramatic announces the shift. There is no conflict spike, no emotional explosion, just a subtle change in amplitude. They stop correcting misunderstandings, stop elaborating feelings, stop investing surplus energy. Not because the connection matters less, because their internal system is running at capacity. And something has to give. Each INTJ, INFJ, INFP, and INTP type leads with a function that turns inward, an internal processor. That doesn't rest easily. It scans, it models, it evaluates, it analyzes. When stress increases, that dominant process doesn't shut off. It intensifies. The mind keeps forecasting, or meaning-making, or value-checking, or structural analyzing. From the outside, nothing changes. Inside, energy allocation shifts. The secondary process, the one that interfaces with the world, begins carrying more than it was designed to. At first, it compensates. Then, it thins. This is the moment most people miss, because behavior is still correct, but vitality is reduced. And reduced vitality is the first signal. They are not less attached, they are less distributive. Attachment can remain intact, while participation declines. That contradiction feels impossible until you experience it. They still think about you, still care about outcomes, still internally process the relationship. They simply cannot afford full emotional output anymore. And when output becomes expensive, systems prioritize survival over expression. That's when warmth becomes measured. Now, we make it explicit. INxx types operate on a four-function hierarchy. When exhaustion builds, it follows a predictable structural pattern: dominant overactivation, auxiliary strain, tertiary compensation, inferior destabilization. Let's define precisely. INTJ, NITEFISE, dominant, introverted intuition, NI, continuous pattern projection, future trajectory modeling. Under stress, NI intensifies rather than pauses. Auxiliary, extroverted thinking. TE, maintains external structure and competence. TE compensates for NI overload by increasing efficiency. Emotional nuance gets compressed. Tertiary, introverted feeling. FI, internalizes stress privately, does not externalize emotional need. Inferior, extroverted sensing. SE, becomes either overstimulated or avoidant under prolonged strain. Result, they appear colder, more efficient, less emotionally expressive, but internally. NI is saturated, and SE is unstable. The system narrows to preserve control. INFJ, NIFETISE, dominant. NI, maintains long-range symbolic coherence. Auxiliary, FE, regulates relational atmosphere continuously. Under prolonged emotional demand, FE overmodulates. It keeps harmonizing past sustainable limits. Tertiary, TI, activates to create analytic distance. When FE fatigues, understanding replaces merging. Inferior, SE, becomes hypersensitive. Or avoidant, under overload. Result, they stop enveloping others emotionally, not from lack of care, from FE energy depletion. And I remains active. Understanding remains deep, but emotional permeability reduces. INFP, FINESITE, dominant. FI, constant value alignment monitoring, under repeated misalignment. FI intensifies internal referencing. Auxiliary, NE, generates alternative interpretations to preserve connection. When reconciliation fails repeatedly, NE fatigues. Tertiary, SI, anchors to past emotional experiences. Compares present to internal memory. Inferior, TE, feels pressured to impose external structure under stress, often suppressed to avoid harshness. Result, they become quieter, less expressive. Not because values faded, because internal reconciliation consumed available energy. Care remains. Output declines. INTP, TINESIFE, dominant, TI, seeks internal logical resolution under ambiguous emotional dynamics. TI cannot finalize closure. Auxiliary, NE, expands interpretive branches endlessly. Over time, cognitive load increases. Tertiary, SI, revisits past data for stability. Inferior, FE, feels demanded to regulate relational harmony. Under strain, FE becomes energetically costly, so TI restricts outward emotional participation. Result, they seem detached. Internally, they are overloaded. The system reduces effective expenditure. If exhaustion continues, loop states begin to emerge. INTJs enter a NIFI loop, becoming withdrawn and internally moralizing. INFJs fall into a NITI loop, shifting into detached analysis with reduced warmth. INFPs move into a FISI loop, becoming ruminative and anchored to the past. INTPs slide into a TISI loop, where thinking narrows into repetitive analysis. In these loop states, the auxiliary function disengages further, and visible connection gradually decreases. But the dominant process remains active. This is not an absence of care. It is the system attempting to avoid hierarchy collapse. They are still present, still understanding, still internally engaged. But the auxiliary is tired. The inferior is unstable. The dominant refuses to stop. So they reduce. Not attachment, expression. And the day you feel the distance, may be the day their system chose preservation over participation. They didn't leave. They powered down.